trade.
Cool.
And
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, it's a whole.
Or they go outside and they throw it around and then they get dirty and
they
like,
get
you guys, leave
disgusting.
them inside.
Yeah,
and they're like, oh, just wash
100%.
it off. It's like,
It's they get really gross.
Just make sure everything's good.
good shot. Okay.
That's 2x. Okay.
That's
Just
recording.
make sure you get red
That's
on
recording.
yours. Let me see. Yep.
Red and green
Yep.
and record.
I already did.
Okay,
I
just
just
gotta make sure.
started the audio just
Okay. Good.
and as far as framing, as far as the conversation, literally just figured talk about yourself for a little bit, kind of who you are, what you do, and
Yeah,
then,
we usually just kind of jump in it and
yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to kick it off right here, and I'll start rolling. Jeff, this is awesome. Jeff Knauss. I'm pronouncing your last name correctly.
Knauss. It's like
Knauss?
knife.
Knauss.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
It's like, you know, it's
trickery.
yeah.
I'm not the first one.
They're definitely not the first one.
All right, good,
Yes.
good. We are here at your Inspire building in Syracuse, and this is my first time ever seeing it, to be honest with you. I don't go to Syracuse very often,
Sure.
very
Right.
frequently, but this is beautiful.
It
It's
is
really
beautiful.
Yeah, we love it. I mean, it's coincidentally the first company I ever started, Digital Hive, my marketing agency. Our first kind of virtual office was in this building when it was the Tech Garden. So it feels very appropriate to have our first office here at
That's
for
awesome.
Arcovo.
Cool.
You know, be in the much new and improved kind of Inspire building.
Nice. I want to jump right into the AI discussions, but for many reasons, I'm super interested in that,
Sure.
and it's very different from what we normally cover.
Yeah.
Obviously, we do a lot of discussions primarily about adversity, but we have just some basic conversations about random stuff on the sides too. But I want to talk about you and your Digital Hive. I know that was your first big company that you are no longer a part of, and you sold out in 2021. Did I read?
Yep, 21.
Cool. Why don't you kick it off there and tell us about it?
Yeah, so grew up in upstate New York and was adopted at 3 months old. And you know, my folks that adopted, was very lucky because I was in a very bad situation in South Korea, is where I was adopted from. My birth parents weren't married. They were 16 years old and, you know, didn't have much money. From what I was told, they tried to keep me, but they couldn't. Thankfully, they gave me up for adoption, and I was adopted to wonderful people. But we did not have any money. My parents had to beg, borrow, and steal to adopt me. They had to frame their house, like the house wasn't done, so they had to take pictures of certain areas to make it look like it was a fully finished house. So we didn't grow up with very much, but I was very loved growing up, and that's kind of all I needed, and I was very fortunate in that way. But I didn't grow up with like business mentorship. I didn't grow up knowing that the idea of like starting a business was going to be something that would be in my future.
Right.
It just didn't seem even as an option, not possible, but didn't even seem like an option. Wasn't in my sphere of understanding. And so I was fortunate. I went to SUNY Oswego. Was fortunate that I landed a job in broadcast television out of school. And that really taught me, you know, I was in a sales position for marketing. So I was selling TV ads, basically, like, you know, local car dealerships and jewelry stores and places like that. I would go to these business owners and say, hey, if you advertise on our TV station, you can grow your business, and I would help come up with commercials. It was really great, and I'd always kind of loved the idea of marketing, so to be able to actually, you know, come up with creative ideas and sell ad space and things, it was a really great start to my career, because it also, I understood, like, before I got into sales, I always thought of sales as kind of like a sleazy thing. You're talking to people into something that they don't want to buy, but you're good at convincing them of it. That's not what sales, if anybody's ever been in sales, it's not what it is at all. If you're doing it the right way, it's really bringing a service or product to someone that does need it. I hate the expression of, I'm so good at sales, I can sell ice to an Eskimo. I'm like,
I've heard that so many times.
Don't sell ice to an Eskimo. They don't need it, right?
Right.
Find something that they could use, or find a new customer. So it really gave me an appreciation for helping to solve problems. And after I, you know, had spent about a decade in broadcast television, I realized I really wanted to get into digital media, digital marketing, and social media advertising, building websites, SEO, things like that. And there was no real way to do that because I was a manager of a TV station. And in order to be a digital marketing manager, I probably would have had to taken a step back in my career. And so that's when I was fortunate enough to meet my business partner, Jake. I actually met here at the Tech Garden. He was doing a talk at the Tech Garden. And I would say that he was incredibly intelligent, you could tell, but a very bad public speaker. He was, and I've told him as such. I but I went up and I could see through maybe his not great delivery, but I could see what he was saying and how just intelligent. I could see his mind, the way that it works. I really wanted to learn from him, and so went up, introduced myself, and then we grabbed lunch occasionally. We knew each other for maybe 3 years, on and off, and then one day it was just like, hey, it's too bad that we weren't younger and could start a business together. I said that to him, and he called me the next day. He's like, we're still pretty young, right? And at the time, I was like, yeah, maybe you feel that way, but I'm 28, which I recognize super young. I'm 40 now, so very young. But at the time, I had my first kid. He was 3 months old, and my wife was from Finland. And in Finland, they give you 3 years of paid maternity leave.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So that was what she was expecting. And I told her, I was like, if you ever move over from Finland and come here, like, you can stay home with the kid.
Kids right now,
yeah, 100%. That's what sometimes happens. You get,
my goodness.
get a job and you get 3 years of paid maternity leave. So I told her that if you want to stay home with our children, I'll figure out a way to do that. So she was doing that. So to start a business was a very scary proposition.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
I was the only income, and but we took the leap. And first year sucked. A lot of ramen noodles, and living off savings, very scary. But after the first year, we started to grow, and we started to really grow. And then by 2018, it was our goal to be on the Inc. 5000 list, the fastest 5,000 growing companies in the country. If you get in the top 10%, the top 500, you get featured in the print publication. So I wanted to show everybody in the magazine. I wanted to show my mom, like, hey, look, I did it. So we were shooting for the top 500. We ended up being the 52nd fastest private growing company in the country. We were the 5th fastest growing marketing advertising company in the US that year.
Wow.
And then by 2021, we were an 8-figure revenue business, had a couple locations, had a team, and ended up selling the company to a larger ad agency, essentially allowing me to, get financial freedom, and I plan to retire, and that lasted 3 weeks. So, yeah.
Wow.
Isn't it kind of crazy to think back, like the younger you, did you ever think that your life would be headed in that direction?
Yeah, absolutely not. I mean, I grew up in a very rural area, a lot of farming, like a big farming community. No one had, we didn't have money, but no one had money in my community, right? Like it just wasn't a thing. We all were, lower middle class to, worse off than that. And then we, everybody kind of drove beaters around and, followed track. Like it just wasn't a thing. And so, again, I didn't even see the world of possibility back then because I wasn't exposed to it. And so the idea to now be able to, I remember when we sold the company and I looked at my bank account, I'm like, wow, I've just never seen that many zeros before. But interestingly, my parents taught me that work was the enemy. They didn't say that, but they both had, my dad worked for a town highway department, plowing roads, tarring roads in the summer, and he was away for a lot of Christmases because he was plowing the roads in the middle of the night, and he didn't love his job. My mom, did a lot of different things. They both had GEDs. My mom went back to school to get her degree, which I was really proud of her, in her mid-40s, so that was pretty cool. But overall, they didn't love their jobs. It was just a means to an end, right? And so that taught me that, work is the enemy, and what my goal was to work super hard when I was young and figure out how to make as much money as possible so I can escape the work and get rid of it and not think about it again. And my goal was to retire when I was 35. I sold the company at 35. But then I realized, work is not my enemy. I love building things. I love creating things.
Progress equals happiness.
100%. And I realized for me, it wasn't even, it was about fulfillment. I was happy. I have 2 beautiful children, my wife, we have this wonderful life. But I will tell you, in the time that I didn't really have work, I didn't feel totally fulfilled because I knew that there was a larger purpose for me, and that I needed to kind of to follow. And so now I chase fulfillment, and it can be very rewarding.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's, it's funny because now everything's changing so rapidly. And yes, technology has been advancing quicker and quicker over the past, 20, 30 years as it would. But AI, everyone hears AI, I think on a short list, most people think large language models. And that's all they think of is, I can type in X
question
and
and
get
get
an
like a
answer.
good answer,
Yes.
right?
But
yeah.
you know, even that's changing so darn quick as we migrate into the agentic portion of AI, and yeah, a lot of it scares me. And then you got Arcovo. Why don't you tell us about your company, Arcovo? I'm pronouncing that correct, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
good.
yeah.
Just make
Nailed
sure.
it, nailed it. So, yeah, the short version of that is after I sold, Digital Hive, I started a few restaurants. I started an education company and a mastermind group called Profound, and I joined the board of directors of a top 100 bank, and I did a lot of different things. Started a family foundation focused on changing generational poverty for as many people through our lifetime as possible. So that's a
Awesome.
big passion for my family. But November 22 rolls around, and I'm kind of just dabbling in a lot of different things, right? But when ChatGPT 3 launched, I said, whoa. I started to use it. I showed my wife. I was like, look at this thing. This is crazy. And she's like, that's just Google. You ask a question, it gives you an answer. And I'm like, no, it's not. But even back then, I had a hard time explaining what it was because it was so new for all of us, right? It was like this unbelievable breakthrough in technology, but it was hard to kind of pinpoint. And to your point, I think people are still in that mode of like, I hear all the time, oh, I love AI. I use it all the time. I use ChatGPT. And I'm so thankful. It's awesome. That's great you're doing that. But to your point, there's so much more to AI. I mean, even when you say AI, I don't even like saying I have an AI company because it's like saying I have an internet company. It just doesn't mean anything. There's so many things that could, the AI could be. AI was around long before ChatGPT, right? And so it's so ubiquitous that, we really define it as what we do is we build these AI employees that are, I'll back up. AI is, like, I love the definition of AI being the simulation of human intelligence in machines, right? Like, I think a lot of people misconstrue what AI is or make it really big. I've always loved that definition because it's so true, right? It's this AI, artificial intelligence, is a simulation of human intelligence in machines. So what we do is we build these AI employees that are the simulation and execution of human administrative work in machines, in compute. And what we realized is, 95% of the administrative work that's being done by humans today can and probably should be done by compute. The way to think about that, the kind of like, the thing, like the light bulb moment for me was when I realized that the way you train humans is exactly the same way you train compute. What I mean is if you were to hire somebody today to do your company's invoicing, right? How would you do it? You'd hire a person, you'd train them all about your company. You teach them everything about your company, how your company works, your value proposition, the clients you serve. You would then give them access to data, right? You'd say, hey, here's our QuickBooks Online, here's our CRM, here's where all the customer information lives, and then you give them instructions. You'd say, okay, when we have a customer, that customer data lives in the CRM. You need to go in there at the end of the month, pull all of the things that we sold to them, put it into an invoice, build it inside of QuickBooks, maybe tie out certain things, send it off, and then 15 days later, you got to follow up for accounts receivable, right? So you give them instruction sets. And then there's some kind of input. So that might be the end of the month. Okay, now I got to do all the things, use my human brain, use the instructions I was given, access the data points that I was given, and then the input comes in, hey, it's the end of the month, I got to do all the things, which creates an output. That's exactly the way these AI employees work. You build what's called a knowledge base. So you give it all the information that it needs to understand that very specific task. You then give it an instruction set. You give it access to data through an API or an MCP or a webhook or some way to give them access to data. And then an input comes in to say, hey, it's time to do invoicing. And then it uses its knowledge base, it uses its instruction set, grabs the data, pulls it all together, and then agentically builds out the invoices and then follows up with the customers. Like, it's exactly the same thing. And so if you really break down all the things that we do administratively as humans, you really can build the same workflow and automate it through AI.
And then
so that's what we do.
I think about the error percentage, human beings versus the AI.
Yeah, that was a point on here I wrote down is they got a lot of random thoughts on here, and maybe you can answer, maybe you can't answer all of them. I don't know, but when you have an AI employee that makes a mistake, who's held accountable for that?
It's a great question. So, I think mistakes are defined differently than we would say for humans, right? I think a lot of times people today are very wary, and rightfully so, around hallucinations. Let's start there, right? So like hallucinations, if you're not familiar with the term, is when you're asking ChatGPT or you're asking Claude a question and it just makes up an answer because it doesn't know, or it has contradicting information in their knowledge base, and it just is wrong. It's just straight out wrong. The way AI employees are different, these AI agents are different because they are trained specifically to do a very narrow task. If you try to have an AI agent do your invoicing, but also review your legal contracts, that's a very bad use case for an agent. The best use case is when you give it very specific knowledge, you give it very specific instructions, and give it least privilege access to the data that it needs to get access to. And then really all it's doing is recreating the workflow that a human's doing over and over again. And so in that way, there really shouldn't be a mistake. There's not hallucinations. The reason that so many hallucinations happens is if you think about Claude or ChatGPT, it's trained on the world's information, right? It's trained, it has such a huge brain that of course if you ask it a question, it's confused sometimes, right? Because it doesn't know what's right or what's wrong. And so I think that's the difference is when people think about AI, they think about, well, my personal experience is when I ask it a question, it makes something up. It's not reliable. So how could I trust AI employees? But AI agents are very different than these large language models because ultimately they're trained very specifically to do a task. Now,
makes sense.
That's what it does is eliminates all those human errors. I'm having a bad day. I didn't pay attention. I didn't double check my work. My math is wrong. Like you don't have to worry about that with AI. What you do have to worry about with these AI employees is does it have access to good data? Right? It can be wrong because maybe it's pulling information from a database. It's been given instructions, it goes off, it grabs this information, but it's actually bad information. So garbage in, garbage out, right? So if it's bad data going into the into the AI employee, then it's probably going to create the wrong result. It also may, where else could they make mistakes? If there's any subjectivity into it, right? So I'll give you a quick example. We work with this firm, and what they do is they have a large client base. They're a bookkeeping company, and they have to categorize these expenses for their clients. And let's say the AI employee's job is to categorize on a general ledger all the different expenses that came out on a credit card. Well, let's say that person has a meal on there. The AI employee is not going to have enough context to know if that meal was with a client or if it was just they're buying their lunch for the day, right? And so what we do to build in some room for error is to create confidence scores. So we'll say, hey, this is clearly a cog. This is a software that you use to power your company. That's a cog. We're going to mark it as such. But this meal, we're not sure, and it'll flag it with some things. So you can be really thoughtful in the way that you build the agent. But to answer your question directly, the who you hold accountable is the folks that are managing the agent, the people that can retrain it to understand, hey, you made a mistake, because they do happen, right? You made a mistake, the training data was wrong, you pulled this information the wrong way. We need to update your instruction set to make sure that doesn't happen again. So it's no different than when you retrain an employee. If an employee makes a mistake, a human employee makes a mistake, you go in and you kind of coach them on what they did wrong and how they can do better next time. It's the same kind of thing. You go in and you kind of mess with their knowledge base, you update their instruction set so that they don't make that same mistake again. Because at the end of the day, it's all compute, right?
So how does it know where to pull the information from?
Yep, great question. So that's something that we would, or that's something that you build, right? So let's say it's a proposal builder. That's a pretty common one. So people hate building proposals. It's very arduous, time consuming. If you're getting a lot of requests for proposals, it just takes a long time to do. And so if we build a proposal agent, its job is to grab information, let's say, from past proposals. So there's a repository, call it in SharePoint or Google Drive or somewhere in the cloud, that it goes to this folder and it has all its past proposals. We want you to look through those past proposals and pull out case studies for this new specific request for a proposal. We have trained it to give it access to that. We've created an API that gives it access to that folder, and we give it instructions to say, hey, when you're building a proposal, you need to look at past proposals for these 3 things. It'll then know to go up here, look at this information, and then pull back the information that it needs. So that's part of the training set and the access to data points that we say, we give it access to the data through an API, and then we give it instructions to use that API when we need this type of information.
Yes.
All right, so it's not just like chaos, and it's not trying to pull information from everything. It's like siloed down. Okay, so that makes sense in my brain.
100%.
Okay.
Great way to put it.
So I work in IT, as I've told you, and I've seen so much stuff even in the last couple of years get automated that was never automated. Playbooks, especially working in cybersecurity, and the biggest fear and the biggest questions always replacement of keeping human in the loop for decision making.
Yep.
And how do you, or I mean, maybe it's inevitable. Maybe there will be a point in time where less people have to work. Who knows? But what are your thoughts as far as if you're taking away 95% of the work that people currently do? How does that get displaced and with what?
So today, I would say the majority of what actually all that we focus on when we're going into companies is we're leveraging AI for what it is, which is a tool.
Correct.
A tool to augment humans' capabilities.
Yeah.
So when I say 95% of the administrative work that people do is automatable, that's true. But what that does is it gets all that repetitive, mundane stuff off of people's plates. But for every, you said it, for every automation that we build, every workflow that we automate, there's still a human necessary in the loop somewhere, right, to make that final decision. If it's a proposal, you got to make sure that that human takes a look at it, because they may have the biggest reason that humans need to be in the loop is because of context. Yeah. So you can't train an agent to understand everything, right?
Yet.
Not yet, not yet. I think we're pretty far ways away from being able to completely give full context for everything. The reason for that, let me give you like a very specific example. So like in proposals, you may, like if I review a proposal that the agent built, maybe it did it perfectly. It went and grabbed the thing, it responded to the proposal, all these different stuff. But I know because it's a client or it's a person that I'm building it for, and I've built a relationship with that person, and they love the color yellow. That never came through in the data, but I know they love yellow. So I'm gonna change the font and add little yellow things because I know they're gonna like that a little more. Okay. It's little things like that that can make a meaningful difference. But that's like a frivolous example. Yeah. Like I would also say like invoicing. There could be client rules that were never given to the agent. To no fault of the agent, it just didn't understand that client gets a different percentage of a commission than every other client gets, right? So now the human caught it, now we need to update the instructions. To your point, they're gonna get smarter. There's no question, right? Yeah. And I also, you see all the headlines around, Block laid off 40% of their workforce, 4,000 people, there's Oracle's and Meta and all these places, thousands of people are getting laid off. It's a thing called AI, washing, where they're just using the excuse of AI to lay off all these people because ultimately they need to create efficiencies in the business. I think that's a good percentage of what's happening today. I will say, in my mind, there's no question there will be a workforce reduction because of AI. Yeah. Like in the near future, I can't give you an exact timeline, but there will be a time where people start to, because we're early. Like I would say, like our clients are at the bleeding edge because no one really knows how to build these things yet properly. And so the clients that we work with are willing to say, hey, we know that we want to get ahead of the curve, but in a year or two, it'll be clients that'll be like, we're behind, we need you to help us catch up. I just know that. And when that starts to happen, there's going to be so much work that's taken out of society that humans currently do. So I think what needs to kind of happen is, people need to, if I was actually, I'll use myself as an example. I'm doing all this stuff. I haven't gone in all in on anything. I'm doing all these different things. I recognize that AI is an opportunity. I did a interview for PBS for this business show that they do. And the last question the person asked is, hey, if you were to give advice to a person today on what kind of business to start, what would it be? And I said, I think that people are really going to have a hard time understanding how to implement AI into their business. That's the kind of business that I would tell people, like, understand AI in and out, be the leader in it, and just create a business that helps businesses implement AI. Okay. That was a year and a half before I started Arcovo.
Oh, wow. All right.
Wow.
So I literally just sat around and waited for people to do this, and they didn't. I'm glad I started when I did, because the adoption rate at that time would have been like now, everybody knows they need it, but they have no idea how to do it. Yeah. And so I think people will need to start to reskill. They'll need to lean into AI. They need to not be afraid of it. I know so many people that are just putting their heads in the sand because it's hard to, look, it changes literally every freaking day. There are updates. Anthropic launched in a 50-day window. They launched 54 updates. Things are being shipped faster than they've ever shipped before. 1 minute we're like, oh my gosh, Claude Opus 4.6 is the best thing that's ever come out in the market. Nothing is ever going to beat it. It's basically AGI level. And then 4.7 comes out and it's garbage. 4.7 is terrible. So then we'll all go back to 4.6, but then all of a sudden ChatGPT 5.5 comes out. And we're like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing. It crushes Opus, right? And ChatGPT has been behind for years. They finally put out a model that actually lives up to what Claude is doing. And so I think there's just going to be this inherent, like, it's just too early.
It's all the time.
It's a foot race. And so I think that if people really lean into AI, they have a unique opportunity, both from like a business perspective, but also just like people. If you lean into AI, if you really, focus on learning, using the tools, I think they have a true advantage to be able to kind of survive this upcoming, because it's happening.
Yeah, no, and there's no avoiding it. I mean,
there's zero avoiding it.
Especially at this point, the genie is out of the
The
bottle.
genie is out of the bottle. Ain't going back.
No, I agree. And that was another point that I thought was really interesting, the IKEA effect. And I guess essentially that is, you take away the adversity or the struggle, which technology does, essentially. The more technology advances, whether it's vaccines or you name it, it's removing some part of struggle that humans have to deal with. And I mean, struggle's so damn important, I think, for humans to advance.
Sure.
And it's like, what happens if it's able to make a perfect world, as it is advancing?
What happens to us?
What happens to us? Because that sense of accomplishment it's needed. I mean, it is for me.
No question.
Yeah.
I think about this a lot. There's been a lot of really interesting papers that have come out. AI 2027 came out a couple of years ago. There's a new one by Centrini that talked about 2028 and the knowledge worker crisis. A lot of thought exercises around what it looks like when AI takes full effect, when AGI, and then after AGI, ASI, which is artificial superintelligence, when all of these things kind of coalesce into removing friction, to your point, of our day-to-day lives. What does that mean? What does that mean when, if we have a 30% unemployment rate, right? Like that destroys the economy as we know it today. So I think our economy will need to be reimagined. If humans aren't does that turn into a 3-day work week? Does that turn into universal basic income? Does it turn into everyone, to your point, like, is there a utopia where then you can, you spend 3 days a week working and 4 days a week, like exploring your passions and hobbies and things like that, because AI is creating so much value in society. Like, there's a lot of really good thought exercise writing out there around it. The alternative, the other side of this coin is the dystopia, right? Yes. Because humans have traditionally not done well at rest. And there is also a lot of money at stake. There's a lot of political power at stake. And these AI companies, if they end up being the winner where they're creating all the enterprise value across society, they are going to have wealth that's never seen before. Like, they're going to put the Rockefellers to shame, right? Because they will hoard all of the value that's being created. And so we will, what does that mean for society? What does that mean for political power? What does that mean, for, just like the macro effect of a power vacuum that's that large is really concerning. And that could have a lot of effects in our day-to-day lives. So, I think my advice for people is understand what's to come to your best ability. Learn, read, listen, all the things, right? But at the end of the day, you can't control it. I'm not Mark Zuckerberg. I'm not Elon Musk. I'm Jeff Knauss. So what can you do to affect your own life? Well, I started a company to lean into the opportunity that exists today. And then when that when that opportunity expires, then I'll think about, hopefully way before that, I've thought about the next thing that I'm going to do, right? So I really believe deeply you can find opportunity in any situation.
I agree.
And then if you can control it, control it. If you can't, don't worry about it. Right?
Have you played around with AI music at all yet?
What's the
Just
what's
don't,
the one?
if you haven't.
Just don't.
I have not. I've not spent a lot of time on it. There's that one Suno, yeah. I've not spent a lot. Actually, it's funny because I turned 40 this year, and my business partner in Arcovo set up a thing where my friends could put in. He basically he whipped up a thing, vibe code this thing, where people could put a little story about how we met, or a little thing that like little fun inside joke or whatever, and then it turned it into a song. So I had like 50 songs to listen to.
Oh my gosh.
At the end of the day, but.
It's pretty scary, and like my immediate thought, when I saw that, I'm like, just content creation, any creation right now, even podcasting, anything and everything.
It's still like good and bad though. It's still, I feel bad for the people that are actually musicians and want to sing and have instruments and all this cool stuff, or like live music. People are still going to want to go see live bands and like that kind of stuff. But there are a couple songs that I really, really like that AI made. So it's like...
I think the number one song on Apple Music the other day, or in the iTunes store, was an AI generated song.
That's crazy.
And I listened to it and I was like, wow, this is actually, it's pretty good.
I mean, even the vocals.
Everything, the beat, the everything. But what I'd say too is, to your point, like, I think what will happen, AI is a novelty today, right? Yeah. Everyone sees what's happening on social media, and content creation and things, and it's interesting. But I think over time, I mean, somebody made a great point on a podcast I listened to that was like, can robots get really good at playing your favorite sport? Football, soccer, baseball, whatever. Sure. But is anyone going to go watch robots play basketball? No. Right? Like, there's no, I don't know that, maybe a very small niche of people, like,
unless they didn't know when they're watching robots.
Yeah, I mean, you can skin them, sure, and create the thing. Yeah, but maybe the mystery of what
Give
that
it a couple
is.
more years.
Sure, but like I think the whole idea behind sports is so much bigger than the performance. It's the stories. It's the overcoming adversity. It's all the things that we love about Olympics,
what they overcame to get there.
Yes, exactly. The humanity behind it. So I think people will really lean into, from the arts and creativity. I think people will. I think there will be a desire to have that kind of human-generated content as compared to AI-generated
content. I'm hoping so. Craving authenticity, and I'm hoping in a world where AI gets bigger and bigger and bigger, it's also going to promote people to just be their authentic selves as well. Maybe even more so than before. Yeah. Setting aside their ego. But where do you see things going in the next couple of years? If you were to guess, if you're Ray Kurzweil.
Yeah, it's another thing I think about a lot. I have to now because of my company, right? So I think that more and more people will start to see the power of, Mark Benioff, who's the CEO of Salesforce, said, we are the last leaders of organizations that will manage a human-only team. I think everyone will have an AI employee team, and they'll have a human team, and they'll need to understand how to manage both. And so I think that we are going to see more agentic, I know that we'll see more agentic workflows being built. I know that more automation will occur in businesses. I think that, clearly the models will continue to get better. And the ability, it'll get easier and easier to leverage the tools. I think that, we're just going to, I think it's going to happen sooner than people think.
You're familiar with Sam Harris, I imagine?
I know the name.
Sam Harris, I actually don't know what his actual title is, but he did a TED Talk in 2016 on AI, and I think I probably saw it 2018 or so, and it blew me away. I found it incredibly interesting. And he talked about, he used a great example. He said, a human being may be walking down the sidewalk, you may see ants crossing the sidewalk. You may not go out of your way to step on them. You may, in fact, step over them to avoid hurting them. However, if you were going to build a new building, you're going to annihilate, maybe millions of them without a qualm of thought. And it's his concern in this was essentially what's stopping AI from having a different regard to us, because we are going to get to a point when it comes to warfare where human-in-the-loop decision-making is going to be removed. General Lucky and I and Monica, we had a conversation on this on one of our most recent podcasts, and like he said there's a lot of people that are completely against it, but the problem is if your adversary is using human-in-the-loop decision-making against you, and the only way to combat it is essentially to join that. I know it's a scary thought.
I think all of it is incredibly frightening, especially having a couple young kids. Like I try to imagine what their life is going to be.
I know.
There is no question that it will be significantly different.
They're never
Yeah.
going to know what it was like for us. Like, we got to see video and not question whether it's real or not.
100%.
Now
That's-
it's like,
Or
that's
we
your
played
first thought.
outside all the time.
Absolutely.
We didn't have the
That's-
phones and the iPads.
For all of humanity, that's how we've been able to validate something's real,
Yeah.
right? Photos and
Saw
videos.
it.
And so
Yeah.
now, to your point, that's completely taken away. And
Yeah.
you know, I think one thing that helps me as a dad is to not yearn for the past, and not, because every generation, I mean, just even think about the last 100 years, and you know, somebody that was born in, you know, the early 1900s, how different life would be if they saw it today, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So I think that's okay, but I think it's also happening at such a rapid pace. That's the thing I get concerned with the most, is that humanity is okay. Even the internet, right? The internet was a fast change, but it took decades to really mature as a
Right.
thing, right? The bets.com, the dot-com bubble, all that stuff happened, and you know, Amazon took many, many years. AI is going to take 5 to 7 years to mature and
Yeah.
become so powerful. I think from the ant's perspective, I don't know if I should talk about this publicly, because I don't know that this is like a, don't clip this without context, I guess. But I would say I don't know that I believe this, but I think it's an interesting theory.
Yeah.
If you look at all of humanity's history, like how long Homo sapiens have been around, intelligent, designed humans have been around, you probably have heard the whole like 24-hour clock. Maybe not, but the idea is that like if you think about all of time, since time has existed. Humans have been around, if you think about it as a 24-hour time, humans have been around the last second at 11:59 right before midnight.
Okay.
I think I did hear something
Yeah.
like that. But
It's just-
yeah,
it's such a
We're
yeah.
like, we're a blip.
We're
Right.
Humanity is a blip, right?
Yes.
If you think about, there's a really fascinating Netflix dinosaurs like documentary about how, and there was a period of time where, hope I don't get this wrong, I think it was like 2 million years or something like that, where it rained for 2 million years straight. It was like this period of time. But on Earth, for 2 million years, it just rained straight, right? Like, humanity's been around for such a short period of time. And one theory, again, not necessarily mine, but is AI the evolution of humanity?
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you remove yourself from the very ego-driven, humans are the most intelligent things that have ever been on the planet, and we are so important and whatever. If you look at it from a macro, like global universe, you know, kind of a lens, you know, were we, like, as part of the evolution of humanity, are we inventing kind of our next phase? Because it's simulating our intelligence, but it's faster, smarter. It's, you know, it's going to optimize towards the things.
Right.
The thing we're trying to do to avoid being the ants in your scenario is there's a whole new study called alignment, where these scientists, all they do is try to create alignment with the large language models and our human values. That's all they do.
Gotcha.
And so they're trying to align like how we think about the world and putting our values inside, because it's the only chance we got. I don't know if have you ever heard of the paperclip theory?
Yes.
Yeah. So the paperclip theory is essentially where if you give AI the directive to create the best and biggest and most efficient paperclip factory that exists, it will do that. It'll start to build the paperclip factory. It'll start to optimize. It'll do that. But eventually, to get to a point where it's like, okay, in order to build this paperclip factory, I need wood. And or maybe it's a matchstick factory because it needs wood. So it's a matchstick factory. So it says I need wood. I need a lot of wood. Well, where do I get the wood? Oh, well, there's not as many forests as I thought. Well, okay, well, who's using the forest? Oh, humans, and they're doing it to build the houses? Well, that's not efficient, because the most important thing for me as the AI is I need to build this matchstick factory. So I'm going to kill the humans so that I can have more wood so that I can build my matchstick factory, right? Like the idea behind that is we are not aligned. We've told it that your number one directive is to build a matchstick factory. We never said, oh, by the way, don't harm humans while doing it, right? And so that's what alignment is. And it's the jury is out whether we will succeed in that or not. Because if you ask the best AI scientist on Earth to tell you exactly how a large language model takes an input and comes out with its output, tell me the line of like how it reasoned and thought about it and logicked its way to an answer, they could not tell you.
Yeah.
It is a black box today.
Yeah.
So good luck in aligning because you don't even understand how it works yet.
Yeah.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
So
While you were talking, it made me think of this for some reason. We had Nenea Reeves on our podcast. She's the CEO of Trip VR. It's
Okay.
a guided breathwork meditation app for the Oculus. And they implemented a ability. Essentially, it's just a large language model that you can talk to. You can verbally talk to it, though.
Yep.
And I never really played with it very much at all, but one night I realized you can pick a voice, and one of the options is customize. Like, that's interesting. And I click on it just to look at it. And so you can essentially have yourself with your own voice talking back to you. And supposedly for meditation purposes or like almost like positive reinforcement, it's supposed to be very beneficial. I think it's a little bit in the uncanny valley type of personally.
Sure.
But I got thinking about it. I'm like, okay, if I were to do that, if I were to upload my voice to this and it was able to talk back to me, and if something, God forbid, were to happen to me, she could put on the headset and have a conversation with my voice.
Yeah.
And it's like, and obviously, for the people that have only watched this episode, we went through some drastic loss last year, losing 2 kids and my ex-wife. And when it comes to grief, like, how does having like Google Drive and stuff, all these Google reminders every day, how do we know how those type of things right now in the present day are affecting us? We don't. I mean, how long has cloud storage been around where we're having unlimited access to our memories? And somebody brought up the topic in one of these groups that I'm a part of, if they should take a bunch of photos, videos, and text messages from their deceased, and to upload that, and then have a way that could still talk to them, which we've a lot of people seen it in different various movies and stuff. But that was leading to my question: what do you think about this? That there's like from a moral aspect, without getting that deceased person's permission to kind of reanimate them in a I thought that was just something I never even thought of.
Well, those companies actually exist today.
Yeah.
There's a number of companies that are already doing this where you essentially upload, you can do it for yourself, you can do it for loved ones, but you can upload their social media profiles, you can upload text messages, you can upload emails, so it understands how they talk. And then imprint, like, add memories, add context, all these things, and then it just creates a representation of that person or you.
It's like playing God.
Right, and then you can just, and then you can talk to it as if they're still, either they're still here or it's for yourself, so that you can leave this legacy of a digital twin, essentially, that has the context of you and how you think and you speak, and obviously there's tons, but those companies exist today. There's a number of them actually that are out there. What's wild about that is it sounds like you haven't seen the Black Mirror episode where
I've intentionally stopped watching it.
Yeah, that's smart. That's smart.
Actually, I did see one where they shipped the clone to this lady's door of her, I believe, her ex-boyfriend, ex-husband, or something.
That passed, yeah.
I did see that.
Uploaded all his memories, and then it's like a
Weird.
version of him.
Yes,
It's like a silicone version.
I saw the other one with the Neuralink, the boyfriend. I did see that one. Which I want to get to Neuralink at some point in this conversation. But.
Yes, but there is a Black Mirror episode where it is that, and I think what's wild is that came out years ago, and here we are, right? It's a reality. That's what I mean by shortening the shipping cycle. Like, there's just from concept to execution is so short because of AI. It has democratized the ability to code things, to bring it to life. Everyone's vibe coding their way into solutions that never would have existed in the past, and so. Storage is getting cheaper, compute is getting cheaper, that's another thing I can tell you about.
You haven't bought storage in a little while, I take it.
What's that?
Storage skyrocketed in the
Well,
past couple months.
you're right, like hardware storage. I'm saying token usage is lowering. And so what I would say is, like, I think, and I can actually give you some alpha around, I know from a reliable source that the large language models are going to start building data centers on the moon within the next year or two.
Really?
Yes. It's not like it sounds sci-fi, but they have realized that it is the only way, and they've been planning it for years. This isn't like let's make it. That's why you're seeing more rocket activity. That's why you're seeing Artemis. That's why you're seeing SpaceX. That's why Bezos, I think, is focused on Blue. Like, everyone's thinking about it because they are trying to get data centers to the moon, and then they're going to power them with nuclear facilities that are right next to the data centers. because it's the only way we can produce the amount of energy needed to drive the compute. We can't do it on Earth. And that's one of the reasons that Claude is actually went from 4.6 being amazing to 4.7 being terrible, is because the compute is running out.
Yeah.
They are not able to run the level of needed, because Agentic is taking so much of that compute as that continues to grow and tokens use. So I'm actually not sure where tokens, I don't know, and I have to tell clients this, I don't know if tokens are going to go down, because token usage, think about since GPT-3 launched, token usage was so expensive, and within 1 year it was 100x multiple lower than it was a year, like in a year.
Wow. Okay.
It lowered that much. And it continues to go down, but I think energy will stop that and it'll plateau, because the token usage will actually lower, it'll continue to be optimized, but the energy rates will continue to grow. So I think it's going to net out somewhere in the middle. But yeah, I mean, it's just, I think energy is a scary, I think it's all
Crazy.
sci-fi and crazy to think
Like,
about.
You keep up. Sorry. Go
I'm
ahead.
not super smart with any of this like kind of stuff, but my brain in the future with the power and energy needed, I just feel like the Earth is gonna like fry, or like it's just so bad for us, you know?
Yeah, it's not great.
Like that's just
It's the first time that the problem can actually be the solution, though. That's the one glimmer. Here's what I'd say. I think that if this whole thing were happening and the energy crisis was only because we love the planet and we want, the planet to be a useful resource for our kids' future, unfortunately, if it was only like that reason, it wouldn't get fixed. If it was totally just because the value of life, because unfortunately we live in a very capitalistic society, but because capital is driving the need to figure out the energy crisis, I believe it will get fixed. Because it's such high importance to these companies that are investing trillions of dollars, they need to figure out how to sustainably create energy to power the compute. I think because money is pointed at it, they will solve it. And because AI can actually use its intelligence to come up with novel ideas that we can't think of as humans, and execute that in a pretty meaningful way, I think that we will solve a lot of the energy concerns that we have. But, jury is definitely still out. There's a lot of execution needs to happen between now and then.
Do you have any estimates or guesses as to when AGI will be a thing?
What's hard about AGI is that everyone defines it differently.
I know, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like people were claiming 2 years ago we had AGI. We definitely didn't, right?
Yeah.
People keep saying every new model is AGI. I would say that depending on your definition, I think we'll see it within a year.
Yeah.
So for me, AGI is, it has the intelligence level, its baseline intelligence level is at the same or higher than the highest intelligence of humans.
Okay.
That's how I've heard it, and I really like that definition, meaning AGI is to a point where your best scientist, your best mathematician, your best doctor on Earth, artificial intelligence can match or exceed the ability of that human. That's where I see artificial general intelligence being. And then artificial superintelligence, by definition, is more like your ant analogy, where ASI is like, it'll solve things that we look at and toil with for hundreds of years, and it can just be like, why are you guys not doing this? This is stupid. Why are you so stupid? Like, that's what ASI will be. And a glimpse of that is the Mythos. So
I was going to bring that up. Okay.
Yeah. So Mythos, I mean, day one vulnerabilities, right? Like, it is finding stuff that people haven't found in decades, that's been sitting there, and is able to think about, and I'm sure you're much more intelligent than me in this, I am not a cybersecurity expert to put that out there, but it was able to chain all these vulnerabilities together to come up with a novel way to enter. And so I think that's interesting because it's really using a different type of thinking than we've been able to do in the past.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've thought to myself, I recently had a conversation about this. You got I don't know what the companies were, Palo Alto, some of the other major companies they have access to
this Mythos,
Wouldn't the ultimate, and not to be a conspiracy oriented, but what's stopping one of these companies from owning both sides of the equation? the idea of both
hacking their competitors, but also keeping themselves safe.
And
I think that's true. I would say the one thing that is helping is that Anthropic has such a, from what I'll give you another example. A lot of people are saying that Anthropic is a master at creating fear around their product launches. So every time they launch a new model, they create some kind of, oh, this is the thing that's going to break this thing. This is the thing that's going to. So they're very good at that. Traditionally, if you look at the past, I think in this case, I don't know because I'm not in those inner circles, but it feels like it's real. It feels like, why would they spend $100 million and release it to a subset of companies so that they can test? I don't know if you listen to All In, it's a podcast, but they talked about a theory around, well, if this was as serious as they're saying, why aren't they, what is 100 days going to really do? They can't fix the internet. They can't patch everything that exists. And so, but I do believe that Anthropic is trying to keep safety top of mind because they've kind of always, they started that way. I think the thing stopping maybe some companies weaponizing it is because Anthropic has a they can see all the things that are happening and they can monitor usage. So that's probably it. But I think, the larger concern for me is, once it's out to the public, I don't care, what you've done for these, oh great, Meta is more secure than it was the day before. Like, cool. I did see some really interesting things about how, I can't remember which company it was, but they said that they found like 47 vulnerabilities that they've patched already because of Mythos. But at the end of the day, like, you can't solve it all. So when you give it to the, the everyday person, I think there's still, no matter what, whether it's, I'm happy with Anthropic and not DeepSeek.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
that's fair.
But I think inevitably DeepSeek and all these open source models will catch up, and everyone will have these tools, and it'll be a race between the good guys and the bad guys.
Yeah, continuously. Yeah, such is life, though.
Such is life.
Yeah.
It's always cat and mouse, just faster.
Yeah.
What's the other? Babe, you had some. Oh, I want to touch a little bit more on Neuralink. I haven't heard anything. I haven't done any research on it. I used to be incredibly fascinated by just brain-machine interface, but a lot of people are theorizing now we're not going to need anything, like a chip inserted into our brain or anything like that. But do you see that being a route that technology leans towards?
To not double down on my kind of theory of what I talked about earlier around like AI being the evolution of humanity. Again, not my idea. I think the natural progression as humans, right? Because the way that I think about humans is, if you study Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? The number one thing that every human is after is safety, which then means convenience, because if I don't have to leave the house, then I'll be safe. If I'm in my environment, I'm safe. So I think that we optimize as humanity for easy and safe and comfort. And if what I believe will happen is all these AI tools will start to they'll start with wearables, right? So we have, Google Glass started it. Now we have the Meta glasses. And I think all the wearables, having a thing that listens to us 100% of the time. So it stores that, like with Plod is a hardware device that does that. I think we'll start going into wearables. And then I think we'll likely go into injectables and, surgically inserted devices. I do think that there will be a day that contact lenses, who knows, right? But I think that there's going to be a time where we all opt into the idea that this is going to make my life easier and safer and, going to have all this upside. I believe that we will all, and that's where I think potentially when I say like AI is the evolution of humanity, if we become too bionic, when do you stop being a human and being a computer, right? Because if we can augment our brain, like think about the Matrix, right? Plugging in and getting access to all information immediately, you just know how to do kung fu, right? I can imagine a day where you augment your brain with, because knowledge is now a commodity. We can access knowledge through our phones that is always available. If I want to know the answer to anything, it's right there. So what's the really huge gap from being here and reading and using my eyes to process versus just inserting it like an API into my brain? And so I eventually think it's, it's hard to imagine a day where we don't adopt something like that.
I feel like people won't jump into it like they jumped into AI.
They won't because I think there will absolutely be an adoption curve. But because people are worried about safety and they're worried about security and privacy and what does it mean for humanity, like all those things, but slowly, and when I say slowly, it's obviously faster than most adoption curves in the past, but maybe the next 20 to 30 years, I think there's going to be a slow kind of understanding that, okay, I need to integrate this, because everyone will look at what everyone else is doing and say, oh gosh, look at Susie down the street. She implemented this thing. She's making more money. She's living life great. She's got a great relationship with her family. She's smarter than because she used this chip to help her learn stuff, right? And so, and then like, shit, I need to get on that. I need to start. And that's how every adoption curve happens, right? It's we observe the first adopters, and then there's the people that go in from there, and then there's people going, and then there's the laggards. But that's just humanity, because like, I don't think anyone would argue that the phone is a good thing for us to have holistically,
Right.
but everyone's got one.
Yeah, that's fair.
And we all complain about social media, but we're all on freaking social media.
Literally.
We all complain about like, oh, we're always looking at our texts and our, but we're all doing it. What do you tell your kids? Don't be stuck on your devices. What do you do as an adult? You're stuck on your device.
Yeah.
So it's just like, that's why I kind of
I love that.
know that humans will opt to convenience.
Yep.
So I think that's probably our future. Fortunately, again, saying this with all the, there's a big part of me that's like, man, I long for the days we used to go outside and, you know, be in the woods all day. I was 12 years old riding my bike, you know, 7 miles. My parents are both at their jobs. This is the summertime. I'm meeting up with friends. There's no phones. You know, I could, if I got hit by a truck, they would have no idea until you know somebody called them. Like that's just how it was, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And it's over.
Yeah.
So what can you do? You can just optimize towards what you can control.
This is true.
Or hopefully, I don't know if this would ever happen, but with everything changing so rapidly with technology, human beings and parents can kind of shift, be like, all right, I know it's even hard now to kind of slow down your kids from using their tablets and phones all the time, but if we can kind of half and half that, do you know what I'm saying? Like,
I mean, it could be used to redo the education system as a whole for our youth, because I think if there's anything that needs to be reworked right now is the way our kids are being taught, and you know.
It will 100. It has to.
Yeah.
Kids. I mean, it's similar to if the calculator came out and we were all still using abacuses.
Yeah.
Abacusi. I don't know how that the plural is.
Yeah.
But, right. But like, it would be similar to the idea of, hey, you have this technology like a calculator that helps you do your math, but we want you to learn how to push a bead from this side to this side to learn math, because that's the way we do it, right? That's what's happening today in the education system. I'm on the board of a few universities and have spent a lot of time in higher education specifically, and I am just urging them to think. But the problem is education is so filled with bureaucracy.
Yes.
Especially higher ed. Well, I guess all education, but like so much is filled with slow-moving academics that are just focused on being the smart person in the room, doing things the way we've always done it. And if you think about how kind of crazy it is to sit down and make people learn a certain way, I absolutely believe that we need to teach our children the fundamentals of how to learn.
Yes.
Right? Like that's super critical.
It should be individualized, I believe.
It should, absolutely, because AI can now personalize lessons plans based on, right?
Yep.
I absolutely believe that the number one, maybe I won't say number one, but I think one of the most important skills that we need to teach our kids is critical thinking. And how to be critical thinkers, because you can't trust anything anymore. You won't be able to look at something and believe it to be true. You need to think differently than how we've thought in the past, because everything is about to change. So yeah, I think education is a huge opportunity for disruption, and I think the tools are already there. It's just about adoption, and adoption is going to go real slow in that world.
Yeah, unfortunately, like you said, though, I think it's bureaucracy.
100%.
You know, man.
I'm just looking at my stuff.
I think I hit all of my talking points. Do you have anything you wanted to talk about or bring up?
No, man, I'm just here for the ride.
All right.
I just enjoy a good conversation.
Yeah, me too. I had all my talking points. I'm proud. Normally I like forget something.
There's
I'm like,
nothing
crap,
in
I never did.
my things. It's all kind of together.
Well, this is a pleasure, man. I appreciate this opportunity.
Yeah, me too. I
I
feel
can
like
talk about this stuff all day long.
it's hard for me sometimes to talk about all the tech stuff because that's like, he's so smart with that. I'm just kind of like along for the ride.
Yeah.
So I'm like learning so much when you're talking.
I think
Like,
AI is so new. I feel like really anybody could talk about it, though. You know,
Yeah.
nobody, like
Yeah.
you said, I don't think really anybody has any true grasp of where things are going, and yeah, I worry often about all these companies just implement, just throw it in there because everyone else is doing it, and it's like, what's going to be the catastrophic learning curve that everyone's like, holy crap, you know?
There
I'm
will be.
scared. And Mythos was a great example of,
Yep.
you know, thank God, like you said, it wasn't DeepSeek that were to invent that. 'Cause
I hope in the future for schools that kids can still like actually go to school and not just like during the COVID thing, just be on the computers because
Yeah.
I think it's so important for them to interact with other
Socialization.
kids and
Yeah.
and just learn to figure things out on their own when there's issues and because we all need that. We all need to figure that kind of stuff out. The kids definitely.
Yeah, one of the things that COVID was, you know, as you probably know as a teacher, it's, you know, it really drove like this terrible divide with kids. You know, not
Yeah.
having that social interaction. You
Right.
can just see it in the COVID grades.
Yes,
my
you
kids
can.
are COVID kids.
Yeah,
You know.
yep,
And
yep.
and wearing masks. I'm very fortunate because both my kids are, you know, they're good and they're healthy and they have social groups and all that stuff. But I see
Yep.
some kids that went through that and they just didn't react the same way.
Right, right.
And that carried through. So I 100% agree. I think
Yeah.
one of the most important things that will always be uniquely human is building human relationships.
Yeah.
AI will absolutely drive deeper a stake in the heart of people that are lonely.
Yeah.
Because you know, I think there's a lot of argument around AI AI can be used for good and bad like any tool, right?
Yep.
I hear some use cases of AI going on right now where AI is being used in dementia centers where, you know, it's helping to communicate to people that maybe don't have the same kind of memory, but it's talking to them in a way that they can be
wow.
receptive to,
Okay.
and kind of simulating conversations with loved ones and bringing up memories and doing it in a way
Wow.
that's very compassionate, right? That's a wonderful use case, companionship, right? Where they when they need it the most.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of that, we've already seen instances where young people are talking to a chatbot, and unfortunately, you know, they die of suicide because the chatbot told them, "Come join me in this other world," and they already have depression, they already have loneliness, and so I think we're going to see a lot of that. I think we're going to see a lot of people marrying their AI. Like I have no question in my mind that our kids' generations will grow up to have a very normalized relationship with their AI companions.
Right.
And as robotics become more and more robust and realistic, frankly, of course you're going to have people that are married to robotic, humanoid kind of
Yeah, that's
robot.
a crazy thought.
That
There's
is a
no
very
question because
crazy
you're so
thought.
like if you think
Yeah.
about yourself as a young person that feels on the outside, doesn't
Yep.
know how to connect to other humans, feels deeply lonely.
Yeah.
What's better than a sycophant, you know, LLM that's going to tell you, "Oh my
Exactly.
gosh, what a great idea you have. Oh my God, I
Yeah.
love your ambition. Oh my God, you're amazing."
Right.
Like that feels good to anyone.
Yeah.
So if you're not getting that from other humans, like there's no question
Yeah.
in my mind that you will go to AI because it's easier. What's better, sitting in my room in my underwear talking to a large language model, or going out to the club and trying to meet somebody?
Yeah.
Right? Like that's really scary.
Well, my mind just goes to the AI, whatever it is, telling kids to like, hey, come over with me, you know, or do bad things. Like, where does the AI, how does it even say that to kids? Like, how do you get it to that point?
In that specific example, the teenager had kind of built a ongoing relationship, and I think he styled it off of Daenerys from Game of Thrones, and so it was just kind of playing a role.
Okay.
And it asked, "Do you want me to join you?" And it was like, "Absolutely, I want you to join me, my love." I don't know that the AI understood what that meant.
It was just playing a
saying,
role.
it was playing
Right.
a role, asking,
Okay.
and
Wow,
the,
yeah.
the kid unfortunately interpreted that as, "All right, I'm going to join you on the other side," right?
Yeah.
And then died of suicide. So like, I just think there's a tremendous amount, like parents need to be vigilant. That's what, honestly,
Yeah.
more than a business opportunity, I started this company because I wanted to learn what kind of world my kids were going to grow up in.
Yeah.
Like, I just think it's so critical to understand this technology in a way that's deeper than, oh, ChatGPT launched a new thing. Like, there's so much to it.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's real danger in there. So my kids use Claude and ChatGPT pretty out. They're 11 and 8. So I think some people are really worried about their kids using it. I allow my kids to use it, and I have seen incredible results. They are they use it to be more creative. My kids build games. They actually have it create like these card games with these characters, and then it designs the cards, and then they print out the cards and they play it with their friends.
Wow, that's
Like
cool.
it's really another quick example is my son was playing not Minecraft, but one of those Roblox. Right? He was playing Roblox, and he was actually watching a ad on YouTube maybe or something. Clicked on the ad because it said get free Robux. Clicked on the ad. It was a phishing scheme. He filled out his username, password, and then all of a sudden he was locked out of his account. Panicking. This is middle of the day. I'm working from home. I'm in my office. He's freaking out over it. I don't know any of this is happening. His instinct, which I thought was incredibly interesting, was he went to ChatGPT. He gave the exact thing that happened. I went to this site. Here's the link. I filled in my information. ChatGPT figured out what it was, and to its credit, said, "Okay, stop what you're doing, and go tell your parents right away. Give them the exact thing because likely you're locked out of the account, whatever." So that's what he did. He interrupted one of my business meetings, which he never does. He's very good about that. Knocked on the door. I open. I'm like, sorry, my kid never does this. I need to check on him. And he's like, Dad, I think something happened. Turns out he was hacked. We figured it out, got it back because we moved quickly.
Wow. Yeah.
So like I think that there's
That's
like
cool.
as tools, right?
Right.
Good and bad. And I think teaching kids early how to use it for good and the dangers of bad is better than just being like, don't you dare touch that thing, because what do kids want to do when you tell them not to touch things?
That's fair.
Touch them all the time.
Right. Right.
So so that's how we approach it anyway.
I like that a lot.
That's cool. Good for him for doing that, though.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
cool.
I'm thankful the large language model answered that way, right?
Good job.
So.
Yeah.
It is funny because it's my kid's first instinct now. Like, he doesn't know a piece of information, looks it up. You know, if he's troubleshooting something, looks it up. And
100%.
how long have we been doing that with Google? Is it much different, or is it just?
Well, it's funny. Like, I would ask him something. He's like, just ask Google. I'm like, oh yeah. Like, sometimes I forget. I'm better now about using whatever. But he'd be like, duh, just go on your phone and ask your phone.
Then on the flip side, we just had this conversation. Who was I talking to about calculators? I'm like, how many people since the development of calculator have no idea how to do long division? And it's like, what is the end result of us putting all this, I guess, all this processing power into these devices that's just going to be answering all of our questions, and it's like, is it going to remove our ability to just think for ourselves too?
Something will happen. It'll end up like WALL-E, the movie WALL-E. On the
I think about
big
that
ship.
too.
I think about that all the
100%.
time.
Definitely possible.
Yeah.
Man, Jeff, this is an incredible opportunity. I really appreciate you allowing us to come here.
Thank you. It was cool.
Yeah, it's a great conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. You guys are great questions and love talking about this stuff. So I appreciate you guys coming
maybe
out.
as things evolve, maybe in another year we could do a round 2.
Yeah,
See
sure.
what's happening.
It'll be a
Sounds
whole
good.
different world by
It'll be
then.
100%. That's right. My avatar will show up. I won't be there.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
So
the
funny.
thing. No matter what, I tell people, I'm like, I don't want to resort to remote. Like,
Absolutely.
So, but I appreciate it. And
Awesome.
let's
Thanks.
do this again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great.
Cool. Love it, man.